Hi, friends, and you know what this is. It's RobCast 99. And so many things going on. I've been on tour, and we basically make these living rooms around the world. And I was just in Portland this past weekend, and we just had an all-day big living room in the round where I sort of let loose the ideas in my book, How to Be Here, and then people start asking questions, and we go back and forth, and I am just, it's so moving. And even this weekend, all of the new things I learned from all of you who are so, you're kind, you're generous, you're funny, you're unexpected. Man, oh man, this tour. So we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going for a while. June 17th and 18th, I will be in Oklahoma. 17th, I'll be in Oklahoma City for a book signing on that Friday night. And then the next day will be the How to Be Here experience in Tulsa. Actually, June 4th, I'll be in Berkeley, California, just outside San Francisco at the Bay Area Book Festival. Would love to see you there if you're in the San Francisco area, Berkeley area, Oakland area. Then we'll be in Oklahoma, then we'll be in Brooklyn, then we're taking the tour to Australia. And I was in Australia earlier this year, and it was, oh my word, you Australians, you are amazing. So I'm coming back, and we're going to be doing larger events in Melbourne, Brisbane, and Sydney. And I'm partnering with the folks from Wake Up Project and their fearless leader, Jono. I just adore that man and this organization. Oh, fantastic people, and we are doing 3 events throughout Australia. Would love to see you there. And then in August, we're coming to Belfast, Dublin, Paris, and London. So you can get all the info at robbell.com. Tickets are now up for Melbourne, Brisbane, Sydney, Belfast, Dublin, August 9th. Doing the How to Be Here experience evening edition in Paris, and then August 13th, all day in London. And actually August, that would be 11th and 12th, I will be at the Timings 2-day event in Lincoln. So if you Google Timings UK conference, Peter Rollins and I and others are teaming up to do a 2-day event. All kinds of stuff going on, and would love to have you be a part of it if you're at any of these cities. So we have that going on, and then if you're in the Los Angeles area, May 31st, so a week from Tuesday, is my next Largo show, and I am putting together this new hour-and-a-half show called The Universe is Shouting, and oh man, this thing... oh man, there's this feeling when I put together a new thing and it starts to get, an hour and a half long, and I've never done it before, but I know that it's going to be a blast to give. So Largo, next week I'll be debuting this new one-man show I came up with, and I'm very, very excited about it. And if you want signed books, like early Velvet Elvis, Love Wins, signed editions, all that stuff is now at my site as well. So that's all that's going on. And a couple things we're going to be telling you about in the next couple of weeks that are about ready to be launched. Oh, and then the Everything is Spiritual film. We made a film of last summer's tour. It's a brand new content called Everything is Spiritual. It's an hour and 55-minute film, and we released it on YouTube for free, and the response has just been fantastic. So there we go. And then I've been doing Facebook Live streams. So if you go to my Facebook page, you can see some of those videos where I basically live stream and chat with you all, and then you can type in comments, and we go back and forth. And so we'll be doing a bunch of those this week as well. So there you go. A bunch of things going on. But now, my friends, I am going to play you a conversation I had with a woman named Leith Mchugh. And she came up to me at one of the tour stops, and she gave me like a 20-second version of what she and her family had been through. And I was so captivated. And so I asked her if she'd come on the RobCast, and I could ask her more about what she told me. And so this is a conversation with Leith Mchugh. And I don't even know how to prepare you for it. I didn't expect the conversation to go the way that it did. And the last thing I thought it would do is what it did to me. And I've never had this happen in an interview. And you'll see what happens. And there we go. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Leith Mchugh. Hi, friends, and welcome to another RobCast. Leith Mchugh?
Mchugh?
Oh, good. I said it right. Is here in the back house. Welcome.
Thank you.
I love it. I love it because I was speaking in Denver, and you said to me, like, during a break, my husband and I completely rebooted our lives, and I help people reboot their lives. And you gave me like 10 seconds of biographical background, and I was like, oh, that's really interesting. So why don't you take us way back, and what do you mean by reboot? What was your life like? Let's go all the way back.
Okay. Let's see. I'll probably start back. We have 3 kids.
Mm-hmm.
We've been married 22 years, and actually 23 in December. And 3 kiddos. Holden, who's 20. Avery, who you just met, who is 15.
Yep.
And then our sweet Hadley passed away 5 years ago, and she was 12.
She was 12 when she passed away.
Yes. And she was born without part of her brain. So she had severe disabilities her whole 12 years, required full-time care. She was had seizures, on oxygen, fed through a tube, wheelchair, diapers, kind of you name it. That's what we did.
And did you find out there were complications when you were pregnant?
No. My ultrasound was perfect. She was born without part of her cerebellum, but the little tiny bit that had developed was perfectly developed on my ultrasound. So if I had had an ultrasound a week later, they would have started noticing that things weren't developing. So we didn't know until she was 4 months out.
And how did you notice?
Well, she was different when she was born. At first, we were just kind of like, newborns are just weird. They look weird, they're awkward, but Holden was a really pretty baby. And so we kind of thought, something just seems different with Hadley, but like her little hands, she would hold him up kind of by her sides. And then she had a hearing loss right from birth. We found that part out. And we thought that's all that was the matter until she was, I think, 4 months old. The doc was just really uncomfortable with her head size. It was, that's why they measure babies' heads at the doctor's office. And so he did an MRI, and that's where we found out that she was missing her cerebellum and the rest of her brain was underdeveloped.
And the cerebellum is where in the brain?
It's the back part.
So you're sort of getting an education on the brain from early on.
Getting crazy amounts of education on the brain. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yep.
So then it's full-time care?
Full-time care. Yep. I actually got paid from the state to be her certified nurse's aide. So I was her CNA for about 8 years of her life because she was 3 by the time I got certified. And she did go to school. She took her little yellow bus, and her brother and sister rode the bus with her. She did go to school full-time almost her whole life, except for when she was sick or in the hospital or whatever. But yeah.
Wow. Okay, and then her health went downhill rapidly or just over time?
Yeah, I mean, we would say rapidly. However, as we kind of look back, she was getting tired. Her little body, well, she actually wasn't little. She had gotten kind of fat. But her little brain, it's like trying to pull an RV with a VW Bug engine. Mm-hmm. So it's like her little brain couldn't keep up with the size that her body was getting. She was 100 pounds when she died. And she ended up with pneumonia. She had pneumonia 5 times before. We almost lost her a couple times before. And This one was just super surprising. Kind of came out of nowhere, and all of a sudden, Tuesday at school, I pick her up. Friday, she was dead by 3:00.
But previous to that, there have been, you said, several times when you thought she was going to die. Mm-hmm. What was this like for your family? Was it like a roller coaster, or were you all numb to it, or?
All of it. It was an absolute roller coaster. The whole thing was a roller coaster. And then you get used to, after 5 hospital visits, you get used to the hospital. Then you get used to things being really severe. Then you get used to all of it. You start getting used to it.
So at first, it's shocking.
Yeah.
And then whatever it is, you adjust.
Yes.
So even stuff where you'd like, that's insane. We could never do that.
Yes.
Then you have to do it, and then at some point, it's just how it is.
That's what we do. That's how we roll.
Wow. How many hours a day? I mean, moms are like working all the time anyway. But how was this every day, all day?
Every day, all day, 24/7. Other than if she was situated, like if her diaper was changed, she was fed, she was medicated, she was comfortable, then she would, could just hang out in her wheelchair or watch TV or whatever. So there were like moments where she didn't need something, but even in the night, like I would hear the sound she would make when she would start to have a seizure, and I could hear it down the hallway to our bedroom and go flying out of bed to make sure she made it through the seizure.
Were your nerves fried?
Yeah. We're still tired. It's been 5 years. And I would say, actually, I'll speak for myself, but in the last 6 months, I don't feel as tired as I did. I still take sleep meds. I still just can't sleep on my own. But I'm off of everything else, and I just don't feel as worn out.
The past 6 months. So 4.5 years later, you feel something getting restored.
Mm-hmm. And that's part of the reboot. Well, it's part of why we rebooted. And I think the reboot is also part of what's allowing us to feel recovered.
Okay, so she passes away. Mm-hmm. It's like another round of pneumonia, but this one is more. Did you know that round of pneumonia? Oh my word! She's gonna die.
No, not at all.
It was just like the other ones.
Yeah, one of my best friends was at the hospital at noon and said, "I'll probably see you guys at home. Hadley, she always comes home from the hospital, always." And we were like, "Oh, I know," kind of rolling our eyes. And 3 hours later, she was gone.
Were you with her?
We were with her. Mm-hmm. There was about 25 people around her hospital bed. We had decided this time to leave her at the ICU and let her go there. The first time that she really almost died, the kids wanted her to be at home. So we brought her home from the hospital. She did not end up dying that time, but 2 years later, they said, let's just keep her at the hospital. So we were around her bed. We actually have a beautiful video that thankfully a friend captured it. It's on our family our video site, but at the end of it is her death. And there was about 25 of us surrounding her. And it's kind of a long story, but the shortened version is that I had been laying next to her on one side of the bed. My daughter, Avery, was on the other side. She was a 9-year-old at the time, and Holden was 15. And I got up to go try to take a shower. I hadn't showered in a couple days, and so I went to go check the monitors. The nurses had the monitors off so that we wouldn't just be constantly watching them. And I just checked it one last time before I jumped in the shower, and everything was low. Her oxygen saturation was low, her heart rate was low. So I ran out to the desk, and they grabbed the doctor and just said, yeah, this is it. So I have no concept of how much time it was from when I looked at the monitor to when she actually died. But our son Holden had stepped into the spot that I had been laying in, and he basically coached her into heaven. He laid with her and just said, baby girl, I'll fall asleep with you. I'll stay with you until you're there. I'm in storytelling mode right now. So my emotions are just slightly turned off. But
Mine aren't.
I know, and
I can't stop tearing up.
It's a lot, and it is the most beautiful thing that I've ever witnessed in my life, and the most heartbreaking and torturing for a mother to watch.
Mm-hmm.
So Erin graciously reached up and just took off her oxygen, her nasal cannula that was in her nose, and within moments she was gone, and we were all there surrounding her.
Mm. I wasn't even there, and I'm a wreck. Whew.
Yeah.
Did you? So funeral. There's just. I assume everybody's sort of stunned for a while.
Everybody was stunned. Our sweet little Avery, insisting on tending to her dead body. So for about 3 hours, she sat and she brushed her hair. I might not be able to stay in storytelling mode.
Oh, now you've told the story a lot over the years.
Yeah.
So do you have some
100
gear
times.
you shift into
Yeah.
when you tell the story? Mm-hmm. Or you just lose it like I am?
Yeah, because essentially I relive it
Do you really?
every time I retell it.
That's how it feels. Mm-hmm. Like a reliving.
Yeah. And to watch, like, not only was Hadley dying, but my other two are exceptional people. And their role in her death and after
Yeah.
were so significant. Avery tended to her body, brushed and braided her hair over and over and over again. And I said, she's sobbing. You saw her big chocolate eyes and tears, crocodile tears, and she's sobbing. And I was like, baby, you don't have to do this. Like, what are you doing? And she just said, I need to do this. I want to do this. And she did that for somewhere up in the neighborhood of 3 hours, off and on. That's how long we stayed with her body. And then we left the hospital without her.
And drove home.
And drove home in silence. Because how do you drive home? We don't know how to drive home like that. So we just were quiet.
Okay, so the reboot.
The reboot.
I can barely hold it together. I can barely hold it together. So how did that? So it from what I gathered from the 30 seconds you told me in Denver, that triggered something way bigger than just the grief of a daughter. Mm-hmm. It had massive reverberations across your lives. Mm-hmm. How did it start? When did you know, oh wow, this is bigger than we're grieving. We'll be grieving for a while. But there's something else going on here.
Well, there was so much going on. So 3 months before Hadley died, our son was coming out as gay. Mm-hmm. And that was huge for our family. So that story was unfolding privately while the story of Hadley's life and death was unfolding publicly. We had care pages and had tons of people. We had a huge celebration service for her. Probably 1,200 people showed up, and we had 800 balloons that we released, and it was a beautiful, beautiful celebration. We had artists and bounce houses, and it was a party. So privately, it's unfolding. Holden's story's unfolding. And then we're kind of all just getting on our feet from everything. And a couple years, I kind of don't really have the timeline in my head right now, but I think it was his junior year of high school, he started getting into drugs. And so it wasn't until he was a freshman at college that he really hit rock bottom. He was up at CU Boulder and hit bottom, and we didn't know he was doing drugs at the time, but he was struggling with incredible amounts of anxiety and depression. And so there's a place called On-Site Workshops that our family is incredibly grateful for outside of Nashville. So Holden went, I had been there for 15 days in their trauma recovery program called Milestones. Then Holden went there for 55 days. And while he was there, he realized he was an addict. So he went straight from on site to treatment here. A friend had a connection with a place here. And so within 36 hours of us thinking we're taking him home from on site, he's now on a plane to California. So that was all. Let's see, he's been here for over a year now. So that was a year and a half or so ago. So we get him to rehab. And we start our house that we built for Hadley so it could have accessibility. We'd been there 10 years, and marriage started going down the tubes. I had already gone through since Avery was a baby, I had struggled with some depression. So I had gone back and forth with some depression and anxiety. And then I was starting to get well. I had gone to Milestones. Then Holden was at Milestones. Then I was kind of getting well. And meanwhile, Aaron's holding the family up. And we start kind of turning our attention to him and realizing that he's going under. So last spring, he had one nostril sticking out above waterline. So that sent us marriage-wise to a really dark place.
So, and that's the dynamic, isn't it? That when one is struggling, another carries weight, and then the other starts to get back on their feet, and then the person who's been carrying it goes, I have been holding this thing together. And then whoever else is around is like, you know what, I've been carrying. So
Yes.
you were each at various times sort of carried the others, and then whenever one starts to get like a little healthier, the other one says,
Yes.
okay, now I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
I've been being strong. I've like been tense or on guard, and now I'm exhausted from that. So then your husband is in bad shape. So then, okay, keep going. Wow.
So that landed us in a place of, I don't believe that we thought we would be divorced. I thought we would probably need to be separated in order to both get well to then stay together. And that's foreign to us. We are crazy about each other. We're good friends. We like each other. We play hard together. And so for us to be in that place was pretty concerning. We started looking around and we were just like, we need to get out of this house for starters. We need to get away from these walls. They held so much pain. It didn't matter what we did in that house to clear out the funk. It was in the walls. It was in the carpet.
Interesting. So it wasn't just wherever you go, there you are. We should just deal with our stuff in the house. It was we need to be on our way
Out. And so Holden no longer lives there. He's now in California,
he's
and
gone.
he's made the decision that he's probably going to stay out here. So the three of us then were like, what do we do? And Avery's like, we're out. We're out of here. And we're like, we're out of here. And I said, I even kind of feel like we should sell everything with the house. And they both were like, yes, we're out of here.
Everything.
Everything. So we sold, when I say everything, I mean like silverware, dishes, towels, sheets, all of our bedding, our mattresses, our furniture. We kept a couple shelves, kind of like those little shelves, bikes, artwork, photographs, Hadley's things, Holden's things that he wasn't there to pack up.
Like a carload. A couple carloads.
It
maybe.
ends up being more than that. We thought
sure.
it was about a trailer full, but we just moved it again for about the 7th time in the year.
Okay, so
it's more, but
So there, and how did you sell it? Like yard sale, eBay?
well, okay. So our house was on the market for a couple months, some showings, no movement. Boom, lady comes in, I want it. I want to put a contract on it right now. Well, when Aaron's discovering that he's not well, he decides to take a medical leave of absence. His work supported that. So we had from May 1st, he was going to be off work. So we had, we're both products of Young Life. We love Young Life. I worked at Frontier Ranch every summer for 5 summers, or a month each summer, for about 5 summers in a row. and it's just like my spiritual home. And so Aaron called a buddy who runs the camps and just said, "Hey, is there anything we could do at camp this summer?" And they said, "Yes, come." So we know that Frontier Ranch is coming on June 15th, and we're going to be there for about 5 or 6 weeks. So we get this contract on our house right before we go. And so we had literally about 5 days before we left for Frontier. We had 5 days
to sell stuff,
to get out, basically. Like, they weren't moving in until July, but we had to do most of it because we were going to be gone that whole time.
And were you walking through your house like going, that goes, that goes, that
Yes.
goes, that's out of here.
Yes.
Sell it, all of it.
Yes. So we put it on Facebook and sent emails and said, come get it, pay what you can. And if you can't, take it. So I think we ended up with several $1,000s, which was helpful. Now it is, as we're moving into our new house on May 25th. It's helpful, but we did not care. It was like, just get it out.
And did you call it the reboot?
We did.
Really?
We did.
So you even had that language at the time. We need to start everything over.
Yes, we called it rebooting our joy engine. That was at least getting
rebooting our joy engine.
Yeah, that was us getting to Frontier. When we left for Frontier, we didn't know where we were going. We just knew our house had sold.
Yeah.
And our next step was camp, and we'd figure out the next step while we were at camp.
Wow. And you put some stuff in storage, and away you went.
In a neighbor's house, in a garage, where it is again, because we just had to get out of our rental house 3 weeks before our house is ready. So it's back in our neighbor's garage again.
Somewhere in there, did you start telling your story? Did people start coming to you saying, you've been through something, help us?
Yes, but I feel like us telling our story happened a long time ago. It just keeps getting more interesting parts and pieces to it. But there's something that's happened in the last 6 months as we've gotten a lot of help. Marriage-wise, we're better than we've been in 22 years. We're going to make it. We like each other. And I think people that have been watching the story knew that it was like, oh gosh, it's like watching a car crash in slow motion. But then somehow there's some dents on the car, but like it didn't crash. And so people are just curious, like, what happened? What are you guys doing? How does the story look like this today? And it looked like that 5 years ago. So I do feel like in the last 8 months has been our transition. And there's people are interested in something, and I don't know exactly what, but they're interested.
Wow. And so what are you doing now?
So right now,
Do you have, your whole life was, a big portion of your energy and time was caring for your daughter. You said like in the last 6 months, you're beginning to have energy again. Mm-hmm. Do you have something where you think this is what I want to do now?
yeah, I do. Several years ago, after Hadley died, I was kind of like, wow, I've got this blank canvas now. Because Avery was 9 when she died, so everyone's getting old enough to be able to, everybody can wipe their own butt.
Yeah.
They can kind of do their own thing. So I wasn't needed as much as a mom. So I went to, Donald Miller has a conference called Storyline. I went there with a bunch of girls and came home from that just saying, I don't know what it is that I'm afraid to pursue, because I don't even know what my thing is. Like, I don't know what my jam is. What makes me come alive? What's my jam? And I just kept going. I know it's something about speaking. I want to speak. I wish I was like Taylor Swift, where I could just belt something out on the stage with a microphone, sell out Madison Square Gardens. That would be like my dream. But I'm not really naturally gifted that way. So I was like, I think I want to have my own conferences. And I told a girlfriend of mine, and
I've never heard somebody say that. I want to have my own conferences.
I do. I was like, I just want to speak. I don't know what that means, but I think I'll have my own conferences. So out of that was born what is now called Brave Beauty. And it started with a women's event where we just kind of said, hey, anybody want to come hang out for a weekend and kind of do a girls' weekend? And here's a couple speakers. And we sold out like 45 spots overnight. So we found a way to open up 25 or 30 more. And those sold out right away. So all of a sudden, 75 women show up and we have an event and we don't even really know what they're coming for. And
and it's magic.
And it just worked.
And everybody's like, oh my word, I'm not alone. Oh my word,
Yes.
I've been thinking the same things, but thinking I was crazy. Oh my word, I can like be honest about my pain and it's fine.
Yes.
And we're all going to be okay. And all that thing that happens.
Yes.
Wow. So now you do these.
So now we do this. So I've done 2 of them and then took a massive break when Holden was in rehab and Aaron wasn't well and we were in transition. So I started back up in the fall and wasn't really sure what exactly I wanted to do with it. I knew I wasn't at a place to do a whole weekend event. So I was talking with a girlfriend of mine. We were out walking and I said, I kind of just want to start with like a happy hour. Aaron's like, just meet at a restaurant and do a happy hour just to start something called Brave Beauty, right? And so this friend that has a blog called Sharing Our Life, Love, and Food, she was like, well, let's just do something together. I do these things. Let's put our things together. Well, she had just heard you and at the Oprah Super Soul sessions. This was last fall. So she said, hey, I just went to this thing. What if we just share about living intentionally? So we did it. We booked like we just said, everyone come to her house on a Friday night. This was on a Tuesday. We sent emails out and 20 women showed up. So after the end of the evening, we just talked about Oprah and some of the stuff that my friend Elaine had learned at that event. And they were like, well, we have to keep doing this. So we're like, well, maybe we'll take each speaker. So we just did you on Friday night. We took each speaker one at a time, and we've been just watching the videos and then opening it up for discussion. So we do that once a month.
So you get an idea and you just do it. What do you say? I can sense, I'm assuming from what you've been through, there's a certain rawness to the thing.
Yes.
A raw honesty. Seriously, people, let's not pretend.
Right.
And I imagine the women who come to this is like fresh air. This is like unbelievably refreshing.
I hope so. I think so.
What do you say to people who are listening to you on this podcast who live in Akron or Scottsdale or Australia or wherever they're listening, who like have some idea? Because you had an idea, but then you just did it.
I just think it is about doing it. I mean, it's like, if you don't, so Donald Miller, what he said at Storyline was just turn your toes toward the thing that you're afraid to pursue. Well, at the time, I didn't even know. I wasn't afraid of anything.
Turn your toes
just
towards the thing.
Something. Just some kind of movement
Turn
toward
your
it.
Toes.
Well
done, Don.
That might be my, like,
that might be your thing.
But no, he said it, but that might be the way I'm like retelling it. But I think that's the thing, like with Brave Beauty, it's kind of like real. I mean, every month before we do this event, before we do something called B2 Teen, where all the teen moms and daughters come, and we do a kind of a similar thing to what the women are doing on Friday nights. And every time I'm just like, what am I doing? Why would I even do this? This is
you have like an existential. What's the point of any of it?
Yes.
Before everything you do.
The day
before
of.
These. Like,
And
what am I
about the
doing?
weekend.
This is the one that's going to. Yeah.
But I keep turning my toes, and even with like reaching out to you, I'm like, I don't know. You might say, "Lady, you're crazy." Hey, you might have thought it, but you said yes. Well, you don't know unless you ask, or you try, or you point your toes, or so worst case, people say no. People don't show up. They don't come, but they keep coming, and you said yes, and people keep saying yes. So I keep stepping. For me, it's taking the next step. Just like today, what's the next right thing that's in front of me that I can do? And I don't know what it's going to look like 10 years from now. And I'm trying to not shit my pants about what it's going to look like 10 years from now, because 10 years from now doesn't matter today. But like right now on May 12th, this hour matters. And then I'll go be with my son, and we'll see what the next step is for today. And then what will unfold with Brave Beauty, what will unfold in our family.
Did you used to live like that, or did it take this pain to bring you into the present moment?
That's a good question. It took the pain.
Really?
Yeah. Took it was so out of control, Rob, the pain and the trauma that it stripped away something. I just shared this after your talk on Friday night with the women that when we first thought Hadley had just a hearing loss, we were freaking out. That was traumatic. And yet it could fit in a box. We could get hearing aids. We could learn sign language. Like we could do it. We got this. We can like handle that. And then 2 months later, we find out, oh no, it's her brain. Okay, well, that's a game changer. So that put me on my face, in fetal position, on my face, flat, whatever, all kinds of things on the floor.
Because hearing's like, okay, so we'll be the parents of the girl who has poor
Yes.
hearing, and we'll know all that. Then it was like, okay, brain. Okay, then we'll learn all the stuff about brain and how you take care of a child who has these issues. But there's a point at which you can't just build the walls around it to contain it, to understand it, to master it, whatever.
Right. There's too many parts to it, and it's the brain, so everything's impacted. Like, okay, we never knew. Is she going to ever walk? Will she ever talk? She did not ever walk. She did not ever talk. But every year, you don't know what the next year might look like.
So you lived in this suspended state for 11 years. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. Mm-hmm. So and what we know now about the body is like even physiologically, your cells were firing a particular way. Mm-hmm. That it's like years now for even just your body's, heart's, mind's, blood cells to adjust to a new reality.
Yeah.
What's the number one question women ask you or want to talk about? What's the thing that if people got it or could deal with it or had a way to think about it, the most amount of healing would occur? What do you run into most frequently?
I think the very first thing that comes to mind is just that women in particular, they just want to be seen and heard. They need their story to be heard. And then they need to know that they're going to make it, or that they're going to be okay, or that there's hope that they could be okay. And for me, there were times where I wasn't sure if I was going to be okay.
Wow.
I know Liz Gilbert talks about being in fetal position on the bathroom floor, and I'm like, yeah, there were plenty of fetal position bathroom floor. I never thought about taking my life, but I had thoughts about thinking about taking my life. Because there's a point where, like for me in particular, I felt like I was afraid my heart was going to burst, like physically explode, because of the amount of pain I was carrying with my in regards to my children.
Yes.
And like, it can't take anymore. At some point, doesn't it just say, I can't take anymore?
Yeah.
And it just doesn't, it stops, or it explodes, or it breaks. And I was like, can you die of a broken heart? Like, I think I'm going to die of a broken heart. And I think people, not just women in particular, I love women and love walking with them, but people are hurting everywhere all the time. And like incredible amounts of pain. And it doesn't necessarily mean they've had incredible amounts of trauma, but our pain doesn't feel different, even if I've had a harder story or more trauma, or I don't know that the pain really feels different. It hurts really bad no matter what, you know?
Yeah. What is that about? You said the number one thing you said was women want to be heard. Is it, and that's unique to, I mean, obviously there's a dimension to all human beings want somebody to witness to their life. Excuse me. But is that, what can I learn from that? What's the cultural truth there? That a lot of women feel like nobody is witnessing or listening.
I guess, or it's something about seeing them, like really seeing them.
Because you're so and so's mom,
Yeah.
or you take care of so and so, or you, you're sort of in the background.
Yes. And meanwhile, they're carrying a story that they have probably been carrying since they were little girls. Like I carry my own story of traumatic childhood stuff. And so I think they're already carrying that. Then they step into their role as a wife, mom, or whoever they are. And then that has its own set of stuff. And I don't know. I just think that when if someone will just listen and actually care.
Yeah.
And to feel like they're not alone and that they're going to be okay. Their story matters. They matter. And I think a lot of women in particular don't know that they matter. They don't feel like they matter.
Wow. And that's what you do. You tell them they're going to be okay, and you tell them they matter, and you listen. I
try to create a safe space. That's what Brave Beauty is, a place that hopefully we create a safe place for women to be able to just be vulnerable and authentic and explore their story of their own bravery and beauty. Like they are all so brave. If you saw these women, I mean, you've seen some of them at Oprah events, and they're brave just for showing up. They're brave for staying alive.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so fascinating to me how many times I'll say, wait. Tell me more about that. Because it'll be like an offhanded comment. And a woman will say, well, this happened. And I'll think, and you're here? This is unbelievable. Do you understand how amazing this is? Your resolve and character and perseverance.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. So can people get a hold of you? Can people contact you? Is that?
Yeah.
How do they find you?
How do they find me? Well, working on a website. I'm on Facebook.
Okay. Facebook, Leith Mchugh.
Yep.
M-C?
H-U-G-H.
M-C-H-U-G-H.
And it's L-E-I-T-H.
Wow. This is, thank you so much for coming to the back house.
You're welcome. Thank you.
What do you say? Do you have what's the bullet point how to reboot your life? When someone says the whole thing, do you meet people and you get a little piece of where they're at and you immediately think they need to reboot the whole thing?
Yes.
Do you really?
Yeah, and I kind of feel like everybody needs to sell all of their stuff and start over.
Oh, really? Really?
A lot of times I do. I'm like, you got to get rid of that. You got to get it out of that story, out of that world. You just got to do something new and different.
And so you hear it and something within you, like alarms go off.
Yes, with certain people. Not every story, but certain ones. It's like, oh yeah, I can see that on my
What are
way.
the triggers? What do you hear that you immediately are like, okay, that's messed up. You got to get on that.
It's something about being stuck, and being in this old story, like the people that are just in a hamster wheel and can't get out of that old story. It's like we were in our wheel, and all of a sudden we're like, we got to start by getting out of this house.
So the physicality is a huge part of it.
Yes.
Just the aesthetics, the floor plan, the memories, the pain body of the house itself.
Yes.
Whatever's these walls soaked up, you got to get out.
And even like when I go to Costco, since we thought about moving to California last summer, and we were just like, no, I don't think that's it. I think we need to stay in Colorado. So we built a new house. It'll be ready in a few weeks. And built new walls, wrote all over the framing, just new words on new walls. But because we're staying in the same city.
You wrote on the framing.
We did. We took Sharpie markers and wrote on the 2x4s before the drywall went up.
Positive, inspirational things. Just so that the very walls you had already marked.
Yeah.
It's like you graffitied your own place.
We did. It was really fun too. But if I go to Costco or Target, I park on in a different area than I used to park, because I need to repattern this stuff in my brain to not be like the old way.
Oh, really? It's that significant.
For me. And I think Aaron would say the same thing.
And you regularly meet people who everything within your being is like, oh my word, they're where I was. And there's a way out, but you're going to have to do this and this.
And Avery and I were just sitting at dinner last night talking about, can you believe 1 year ago, we didn't know where we were going. We did not. We knew we were at camp. We didn't know what was happening after that. And we had no idea what was ahead. Like had we been able to have a glimpse a year later, we would have been like, really, we're going to have to do all that to get here, but now we're 2.5 weeks out from landing in our nest and being at the place that we didn't even know existed a year ago. It's pretty cool.
Wow. Well, I'm cheering you on.
Thank you.
Very inspiring.
Thank you.
Very inspiring. I'm literally just choking up again, all over again. I can't even finish this podcast without crying more.
Yes.
Oh, my word. Okay. Well, thank you so much.
You're
Thank
so
you.
welcome.
Grace and peace, everybody.